My name is Carmen Faul, and I teach at Villepot High School in Evangeline Parish. As an educator, I'm most passionate about meeting the social, emotional needs of my students because in order for them to achieve academic success and personal growth, they have to feel safe and supported in their learning environment. The students in my video are 10th grade students in my English 2 class. I am using a lesson from the unit Rhetoric in Guidebook 2.0 from Learn Zillion, where my students are expected to analyze an informational text for the author's word choice and his use of rhetoric so that he can achieve a purpose. Prior to this lesson, my students have analyzed several literary and informational texts for an author's use of rhetoric and how that impacts an audience and helps him achieve a purpose. So there was a lot of scaffolding before this. Also, students have viewed videos on the event Pearl Harbor because the informational text that they will analyze is President Franklin D. Roosevelt's address to the nation after the attack on Pearl Harbor, and how he used rhetoric to convince the nation that entering into World War II was the best option for our country. So in this lesson, students are going to complete a collaborative annotation where they each take one annotation task, which is finding a rhetorical or evidence of a rhetorical appeal or device in the text. And then they are going to work together to teach their group mates. And at the end of the lesson, they will have a completely annotated text. This is going to be helpful because in their culminating writing task that they are going to do, they are going to have to write an essay that explains how Roosevelt used rhetoric in his speech and how his use impacted the audience. The group of students that you're going to see is a very diverse group of learners. We have students from all different socioeconomic backgrounds. I have students with 1508 and 504 plans where we're going to have to meet their accommodations. So they are also a group of hybrid learners. So some students are in class and some students are at home. As students work, I'm going to ask higher order thinking questions to help elevate the conversation, and then also check for understanding as students collaborate. That way I know which students need extra mediation and small group instruction. Enjoy. All right, guys, good morning. Yesterday we worked to find unfamiliar words in an informational text, and we summarized the text Pearl Harbor Address to the Nation. Today we are going to analyze the effect of the author's word choice and his use of rhetoric in an informational text, and we are going to collaborate to annotate the text using Zoom breakout rooms. Today you are going to be put into a Zoom breakout room with 4 of your classmates. You might also have at-home classmates in your group. And you are going to work together to collaboratively annotate the text. So I'm going to give you 15 minutes to work independently to collaboratively pick which appeal or device you want to annotate for. Then they give you 15 minutes to do so. Okay? After that, you and your group are going to come together and you're going to work to collaboratively discuss what you annotated, why you annotated it, and by the end you should have a paper that is completely annotated with ethos, pathos, logos, and all the rhetorical devices and appeals. So I'm going to push you guys into your breakout rooms. Annotated your text for the rhetorical appeal that you selected. You are going to take turns teaching your group about your appeal or device. Take a second to put in your chat box with your group what number you would like to go in speaking order, first, second, third, or fourth. Once each member guides you through their annotations, you should have a completely annotated your own text. Once all of your group members have spoken. Remember that this task, these annotations are important because they will help guide you through writing your culminating writing task, where you have to summarize and analyze this text and show how our speakers speaker, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, used rhetorical appeals and devices to persuade his audience, which was Congress, to declare war on Japan after they attacked the naval base Pearl Harbor. All right, guys, I'm going to let you break out into your groups.
13, Roosevelt cites his official position and authority to build his credibility by saying he's a commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy. And he says that all his measures can be taken for defense, and that the whole nation needs to remember all of this for the his credibility.
To say that they should go to war. Like they should go to war with them because they wanted to.
He also builds his credibility by showing his knowledge of Congress.
I agree with that because
in paragraph
he's trying to
15.
get the people of America to agree with him
And in
about
paragraph
going to
2,
war
he goes
with
into
Japan
honesty
because they
and
bombed them, and
credibility
he trying
when he
to
shows
use the credibility.
that
In paragraph 5, the author uses pathos. He says, I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. In addition, American ships have been reported torpedoed in the high seas between San Francisco and Honolulu. This provokes emotions of disbelief.
Paragraph 7, 8, 9, 10, it repeats last night over and over to show that the Germans planned to attack and multiple attack on the Allies.
he emphasizes on this to convince Congress to try and go to war with Japan.
I agree with y'all, but we should also underline deliberately because it helps him achieve his purpose that they wanted to go to war with them.
Paragraph 12, the entire paragraph Roosevelt appeals to the readers by using the many facts of the many attacks from Japan to make the American people know that they are in danger.
I agree with what you said.
In paragraph 15, Roosevelt appeals to the reader's logic by stating the fact that they are in danger due to Japan's betrayal.
I also agree with this because they attack from many different locations.
In paragraph 4, the first sentence, Roosevelt appeals to the reader's logic by stating the attack on Hawaii is obviously planned. So this lets the reader know that the U.S. is being deceived.
In paragraph 14, the author uses pathos by saying how they used to overcome the invasion and they will win throughout the absolute victory, which provoked determination and a sense of pride and patriotism.
Yeah, I agree with them because his goal was to declare war.
In paragraph 4, I highlighted for pathos because it's telling emotion and how they felt about their ships being all messed up and Japan bombed. Do y'all agree with me?
I agree, but also anger because they like ruined all the ships and
In paragraph 17, he says, with confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounded determination of our people, the author is using parallelism.
Yeah, you're right, because that makes his point clear.
And our interests are in where they and in paragraph 17 also with that I underline we will
Paragraph 2 shows equals by showing
I agree with that because it do show about the protection of the allies and he trying to prove to them that it was really plain. So that's why we use this pathos and ethos and locals to tell y'all.
In paragraph 4, Roosevelt states that it will be recorded that the distance of Hawaii from Japan makes it obvious that the attack was deliberately planned many days or even should go. And this is pathos because
In paragraph 2, I found the example of logos. It says the United States is at peace with the nation and the solidification of Japan was still in conversation with its government and its empire looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. This built his credibility because he was being honest. The president wanted to express the fact that they were talking about peace during the attack. Also in paragraph 3, it built his credibility because after they bombed the United States, the student don't knock on the fact that we trust him. Rosso was very honest and true when he explained what happened and when it happened.
Paragraph 2 shows ethos because it shows his honesty and he builds his credibility by describing how Japan was the ones who asked for peace in the first place, then deliberately attacked the United States. And then in paragraph 13,
they still plan to attack to go to bomb them even after they ask for it. So he's building his credibility to tell them that like we have to go to war with them because they asked for peace, but yet they still can bomb us.
Yes, I totally agree. Because it's they
After they bombed.
they credibility as he describes how Japan was the one asked for peace.
All right, guys, today you completed a collaborative annotation where you analyzed the text Pearl Harbor addressed to the nation for the author's use of rhetoric and his word choices and how his word choices affect the tone of his speech. In this text, he was trying to achieve a purpose. What purpose was Roosevelt trying to achieve, Jara?
He was trying to convince Congress to go to war with Japan.
Definitely. He was also trying to convince the American people of something. To seek justice. He wanted the American people to also to support his decision to go to war, or Congress's decision to go to war. And he did this by using our 3 rhetorical appeals throughout the text. Give me an example of where he used logos in the text, Caitlin.
In paragraph 4, he uses logos. He cites facts to appeal to the region's logic.
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Yes, he talks about the distance between Japan and Hawaii and how the attacks was deliberately planned.
Okay, definitely. He uses the distance to show that it was planned, right? Because he says Hawaii and Japan are close together, so they were able to plan and execute this attack. It was a perfect location, right? Because of the distance. All right, what about ethos? Where does he use ethos in the text?
Throughout the story, he was honest, and towards the end, he built his credibility by citing his official position.
Definitely, he used his position as what does he say? He calls himself the
commander-in-chief of army.
Commander-in-chief. And what does he say to build or to show his honesty?
He talked about how they were talking about being at peace with us, but then they deliberately attacked us.
Definitely. It shows how he was talking about, oh yeah, Japan was the one who asked us to be friends, right? And then they deliberately attacked us because the peace talks were at the solicitation of Japan. Great job. What about pathos, though?
At the beginning, he uses it to make them feel shocked or sad. And then towards the end, he uses it to make them determined and have pride.
Can you give me an example of something he says in the text that would make or inspire the reader to feel or the audience to feel determined, pride?
He says, no matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
Perfect. Awesome job. Now, what about his word choices? Christian, can you give me an example of the author's word choice or a word choice that he uses in the text?
He uses the word infamy throughout the passage to let it be known that it's all bad reading.
Okay, he uses the word infamy to stress the fact that the date will forever be known for a bad reason, right? What other words does he use in the text, Lil?
He repeatedly uses deliberately and last night to show that it was on purpose, and they also attacked multiple U.S. allies.
Definitely, he repeats the word deliberately, uses repetition to show that the attacks were on purpose and planned. What about you, Ariana?
He also uses words like unprovoked and dastardly, which is like the meaning of those like is dastardly is wicked and cruel, so meaning that they did it, we didn't deserve it, and like they did it on purpose.
Definitely, great job. All right, guys, great job. To ensure that my students met the objectives, I monitored student progress as they worked and discussed with their team, and also asked for specific examples of where the rhetorical appeals and devices were found in the text. After this lesson, I gave my students a formal assessment where they had to write an essay detailing how the author's use of rhetoric helped him achieve his purpose and impact his audience. This was the culminating writing task for the unit Rhetoric in Guidebook 2.0. After reflecting back on my lesson, I wish I would have asked my students more probing questions where they would have dug a little deeper and really explained how the evidence that they chose was an example of the rhetorical appeal or device that they identified. I also wish that I would have recorded my Zoom lessons so that I could have looked back and the kids and I could have done some self-reflection of what we could have done as a class better next discussion. Thank you so much for considering me to be Louisiana's High School Teacher of the Year. I hope you enjoyed my lesson.